Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today, well, last weekend actually, I was here, at the Workshops Rail Museum in Ipswich, Queensland. What was I doing here? Well, for one, it's only a short drive from home and I'd never been, but there was also a model railway exhibition here. Model railways have always interested me. I figured I would share some video I captured with my phone while I was there. This N-scale layout was the first one I saw upon entering the exhibition area. A lot of these layouts have names, some of which are quite funny. Unfortunately, I'm a dumb and forgot to make note of a lot of them. There were layouts of all sizes. This one, which was called Bill & Co, is small but really cool. There's a sneaky Thomas the Tank Engine in the shed. This narrow gauge railway named Mountview was pretty cool. Even tiny trains have derailments. Not to worry though, it got back on track. This layout was pretty interesting to me. I don't remember what it was called or who it belonged to, but I do remember that it's a modular setup called T-Track. Each of these tiny modules is made by different people, and for events like this can be joined together in various configurations. It seems like a great idea, and I think it would allow me to do model railways too, despite limited space available. I'm definitely tempted. Modular layouts are good, but I really do like the larger, more consistent ones. This Australian one, having its consistency disrupted by a North American train, seems to be based on a station somewhere near the Queensland and New South Wales border. It's pretty cool. It even looks like they've used narrow gauge track for the Queensland lines. That's the inner loop with the yellow and red locomotive running on it. They also had this, I believe, 1460 class locomotive, which was one of my favourites to see when I was growing up. Gloucester Street is another Australian-based one. It was modelled on a real location. I googled it. Turns out this is a model of a station in South Brisbane that was closed in the late 70s. That's a New South Wales freight train rolling by on the standard gauge line. I can't be sure, but it looks like they've also used narrow gauge track for the Queensland line through the station, which is realistic. Here comes a Queensland train. From the few images I could find, this is a pretty accurate model. Brisbane sure was a different place back then. I like the old blue paint scheme the locomotives used to have much more than the modern yellow and red one. I was just amused by this little locomotive running without its shell. And here's yet another model of a Queensland train. Sensing a theme? I like this little loop of track on this layout that has the little diesel shunter pulling Thomas's coaches. I believe this here is what is called a spaghetti bowl, just because there's so much track everywhere, like spaghetti. I think it's pretty cool. This is probably the exact kind of thing I would have built as a kid if I had the resources. I spent hours just daydreaming about this sort of thing. This one is also kind of a spaghetti bowl, so much track. This one is a smaller scale though, so they can have nice long trains. This one is called Rose Valley, and according to the sign, a young lady built it. I think it's awesome that young girls are encouraged to take part in this hobby. This layout here has some interesting features. Not only does it have Thomas the Tank Engine and friends running about, but there's been a car accident right by the narrow gauge Cane Railway, and there are 10 Wallies to find. Where's Wally? There he is. 9 more to go. This N-scale layout is one of my favourites. I think it's quite nicely detailed. They have a nice balance between scenery and tracks. There's plenty of track without the spaghetti bowl effect. I was really impressed with this rocky canyon scene. Going over here to this bridge, you can see that some of the cars have illuminated brake lights. That's a nice touch. I'd really love to be able to build something like this myself one day, perhaps combining a gaming table. This one is big enough that they had some nice long trains running, which is always impressive. Just as impressive is this tall timber tramway. I really enjoyed this mountainous layout. The bridges and trestles are really quite nice. This layout was also quite sizable. All the way down this end, there is a little town yard type scene with a turntable and engine shed. Very cool. This one was named Morewood. Heh, wood. It is just bustling with trains and captures the mood of a busy town very effectively. A fantasy town in which the old steam trains from the US run alongside modern European electrics. One of the awesome things about model railways is that you can do whatever you want. This layout is called Lakeside Coal, another Australian themed one. And there goes Thomas the Tank Engine. He gets around. I'm quite impressed by that coal mine. The mountain and stream coming down from it look pretty great too. I think this one is one of the coolest displays I saw. This tiny little train is in T-scale, or 1/450th scale. The track gauge is 3mm, so tiny. I'm seriously considering buying something like this. Of course, not all the trains here are tiny. This beast, I think, is in G-scale. It's fairly big and it makes smoke. I kind of want one. Perhaps I can put it in the garden where there's plenty of space. The only problem with coming to places like this is that I tend to want one of everything, and there are plenty of people selling things. Fortunately, my wallet survived. Not all of the trains here were scale models. This cacophonous collection of toy trains seems to involve a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine. And of course there was Lego. This looks to be approximately $1 million worth of Lego. Not the most impressive Lego railway setup that I've seen, but it's pretty rad. I really wanted Lego trains as a kid. Never did get any. I was quite amused by the name of this layout, or rather, its lack of a name. This is another quite large N-scale one that I'd assume is based on somewhere in Colorado. I really like those trestles. I'd imagine they are scratch built. N-scale is really good for these nice long trains. The thing I liked about this exhibition is that it takes place inside a real, functioning, at least in a limited capacity now, railway workshop and museum. A lot of the old locomotives and rolling stock maintained here are used for excursions on the main rail lines around the city, which is pretty cool. The museum also has its own model railway, which is quite large. Never mind the EMU missing one of its cars. This layout is meant to represent Queensland Rail in various locations around the state, and I think it's pretty cool. This old rail motor is cruising around in the outback. This scene portrays the tourist line from Cairns to Kuranda in the state's far north. Cane farming areas are represented here, as well as coal traffic. This is a very short coal train. I would be more impressed if they had more cars. And of course there's a seaport scene. You can see this layout anytime you come to the museum. The museum has a lot of other great things to see too, and they're not all model trains. Some of them are real and very large. Of course, Queensland railways are narrow gauge, so this isn't really all that large a locomotive, but still. This one has been cut open and had its innards dissected, so you can see all of its inner workings. Really cool stuff. Around this side, you can get up pretty close. Unfortunately, you can't go inside the cab, but I'm crafty and reached in with my phone. It looks real simple in here. This is probably one of the earliest diesel-electric locomotives Queensland Rail had. They also have this driver simulator. Unfortunately, it was occupied both times I came here. I quite like this gold engine. It was painted that way to celebrate 100 years of Queensland Rail. It isn't cut open, but you can still have a look inside. There is a lot more to see at the museum, including guided tours of the workshop. Unfortunately, this time I didn't have quite enough time for that, but I do plan to come back. This video was something a little bit different, but if you liked it, I'll make another one when I come back to this museum. And there are plenty of other museums and interesting things around that I could make videos about. Let me know what you think in the comments below or on various social media places that I've linked in the description. Thanks for watching. Farewell.